Good morning. I'm Bob Vanderplant, president of the Family Leader, but today representing the Coalition of Pro-Life Leaders. And just thrilled to be here today for such a time as this. This has been quite a year. We are taking major steps to protect and defend the sanctity of human life. And what happened yesterday in this room, we're going to talk about in just a minute, but it began earlier than that. Matter of fact, on January 11, this coalition came together to say we are unified. We are unified, and we publicly pledge, we publicly sign to protect and defend the sanctity of human life from conception, life at conception. And that was a big day, it was a big step for babies. That should not be missed. So January 11, that happens. Yesterday, February 27, we witnessed a step in history. We witnessed a step in history at this subcommittee where the room was full, but the subcommittee advanced Senate File 253 for consideration to the full committee defining the life that begins at conception. Leading us to this historic vote, we heard compelling testimonies. Among those testimonies, a woman who was given birth by a mother who was the victim of rape. And Rebecca Kiesling from Detroit, Michigan, just gave a powerful testimony that every life has a purpose. And then we heard from a lawyer who gave legal reasoning why Senate File 253 should withstand the sure-to-come legal challenge. And we heard compelling testimony from a woman who was counseled not to have just one, and not just two, but 3 abortions. And the trauma that has left with her and thousands like her. February 27 was historic. Yesterday in this room, what we saw was historic. All the supporters outside, that's historic. It shouldn't be missed. But another thing that shouldn't be missed is basically, with no pun intended, what gave birth to January 11 and what gave birth to yesterday, February 27. And that was November 8. November 8 gave birth to this. That's when Iowans rose up and they said, we are done with politics as usual. We want bold and we want courageous leadership. And so we applaud Senator Schultz and Zahn for their leadership on life yesterday in advancing Senate File 253, standing firm, standing committed that life begins at conception. Now we encourage the full Judiciary Committee to follow their lead with bold and courageous leadership and to do what is right. For as we tell our boys, you're never right when you do what's wrong. No matter what the polling numbers say, no matter what, you're never right when you do what's wrong. But you'll never be wrong when you do what's right. And passing and allowing Senate File 253 to go to the full floor is the right thing to do. If not now, when? To assist in this tangible encouragement to all the legislators and to the governor's office, we are launching a comprehensive She's a Baby initiative. And this is to have their back. But it's also to deliver a message to all of Iowa that little girl in her mother's womb, she is a baby. It is to highlight the Coalition of Pro-Life Leaders, our unity and our resolve to pass this bold, courageous, and right statement for life at conception. So simply put, you heard it yesterday at the committee. Frankly, we've heard all the arguments. As a matter of fact, we can even resonate with some of the emotion of a lot of the arguments. But there's one fact we cannot argue away. That little girl in her mother's womb, she's a baby. So this She's a Babies initiative, if you listen to the statewide radio right now, or maybe some other radio stations, you're hearing it on the air. You'll also be seeing a video that will be saturated through social media and beyond. We hope it goes viral. And to give us a look at what that is, I've asked our tech team to show the people gathered here today the She's a Baby video.
I heard all the arguments about abortion, and I understand people have real concerns. But when I was pregnant with Layla, one truth I couldn't argue away. That little girl kicking in my womb, she's a baby.
Ready to be pregnant? No, I wasn't. But when I saw this ultrasound, and I saw those tiny fingers, I could only see a baby. She's a baby.
I actually survived an abortion. 39 years ago, I was so tiny you could barely see me in my birth mother's womb. But I was still a baby, just like you.
There are many arguments about abortion, but one truth cannot be argued away. That little girl in her mother's womb, she's a baby, and she deserves a birthday. Declare I agree she's a baby today at she'sababy.com.
With this video and with this initiative, we are really hoping that Iowans will step up to the plate and lead and give life a chance. At this time, I'd like to welcome Jennifer Bowen and Maggie DeWitty up here as well, spokespersons for the Coalition for Pro-Life Leaders, and we will take any questions, we'll take most questions that you might have.
I'll start. What's next? I know it goes to the Judiciary Committee. Any kind of timeline on how quickly you want to get this done?
I would say yesterday would be soon enough. We've been waiting 40 plus years for this opportunity. But I think it's going to be up to the Senate process, how quickly it gets moved to full judiciary. And then we're just asking full judiciary, put it to the floor. Put it to a vote. Let's have our voices heard on this issue. This coalition is about the gold standard. And the gold standard is life at conception. And that's what Senate File 253 recognizes.
How does Funnel Week impact your efforts?
Well, as Bob said just a moment ago, yesterday was a good time for this to happen. We recognize that we're in Funnel Week and now is the moment. And as Bob said earlier, if not now, then when?
Obviously, there's, from the scene yesterday, there's a little bit of opposition to this bill. What would you say to the people that are saying that this puts women's lives at risk if they can't have an abortion? What would you say to the people that are saying having contraception might be outlawed just from the language that's within this bill?
Well, I think the bill very explicitly states that this will in no way affect or outlaw contraception in any way. So I think what happens is we are detracting from the real issue here with all of these other arguments, and that again is that we're talking about human life, and we're talking about a baby who deserves equal protection, and that's what we need to focus on. And the life of the mother is that's another one of those detracting arguments. It's not going to be a situation that with this bill, it's just simply not.
So obviously with this campaign, you're hoping to generate maybe more of what we saw yesterday, large crowds coming out to support this legislation.
Well, again, I think the largest crowd we looked for was on November 8th. And that happened. And now we're looking for bold and courageous leadership. Well, what this initiative is about is basically almost a public awareness campaign. What everybody intuitively knows, I believe even the opposition yesterday that was in this room and outside, they intuitively know that little girl in the mother's womb, that she's a baby. And so the arguments that we hear, you can't argue away that fact. And so that's why we believe we need to determine life begins at conception. And let's celebrate a culture of life versus trying to manage away a culture of death.
Other states haven't passed legislation like this, and my understanding is that part of that is due to legal challenges. I know that those were addressed somewhat yesterday, but it also seems like all these bills are preparing for a legal challenge and sort of ready to face it. Why would Iowa be different from the other states that haven't been able to pass this?
as Bob said, and as we've said several times over the last couple of weeks, the mandate that came out in November on election night spoke very, very clearly on issues like the issue of life, and that is the people spoke, and so we're going to see bills like this move forward because the people have stood up and said, as this campaign says, she's a baby and she's worth fighting for.
And probably one other comment to what Jennifer just said. I think it's good if Iowa was a leader, if Iowa leads on this. A lot of people say, well, it's going to get challenged in court, and part of me is kind of like, well, duh. I mean, we expect that. I mean, where did Roe v. Wade happen? In court. And part of the Roe v. Wade, if you read the opinion in the Roe v. Wade, and that's what it is, it's an opinion, it said, if you ever define that baby as a person, the whole argument collapses. 40 plus years later, the science and the technology is revealing what we all know intuitively to be true. The little baby in the mother's womb, she's a baby.
You prepared, ready for the fight in courts?
Right now, we're prepared for the encouragement right here in the legislature, and that will be another step down the line. But right now, we have to get it. We need Iowa to lead right now. And we believe to honor November 8th, to honor life that begins at conception, a major step has happened yesterday. And you saw people cheering, and our inboxes are full of people cheering us on. And now what we're doing is we're asking the full Judiciary Committee, let's advance this so we can have this discussion at the floor, and then we'll take it one step at a time. But what you should take away from today, our resolve has never been more determined, and our unity has never been more clear. We are here to stand for life at conception. Anybody else? The student teacher in me says, good. Thank you so much for coming out, and we really do appreciate your leadership on this issue and your encouragement on this issue. Thank you so much.